From Perth, Australia, and broadcasting around the world, you're listening to The O Show with your host, Oren McCory. The O Show is a no-nonsense podcast bringing you the best advice on training, mindset, and nutrition to supercharge your efforts in the gym, the kitchen, and most importantly, in your head. Don't forget to share this episode on your social media. Now, let's get to it.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, guys. Wherever you are in the world, welcome to today's episode of The O Show. And today I am joined by my friend Martin Silva, who is a WBFF pro, originally from Wales, who has made his way down under with me, and he is currently residing in Sydney, Australia. Martin, welcome to the podcast.
How you doing, brother? You good?
Good, very good, man. Very good. Thanks for coming on, mate. We've done a very few, we've done a good few lives together, but we haven't actually done the full podcast. So this has been a while in the making. So we've been teeing it up for a while, and it's going to be a good topic today. We're going to talk about what it takes to get lean, right? And this is something that you being a WBFF pro, I want to get your background for starters, but like to get that stage P look to earn a pro card takes a different level of commitment versus somebody who just wants a flat stomach. So to get really, really lean, we just want to talk about the strategies employed. But let's give everyone a bit of an introduction to you. So obviously you're from Wales, you're in Sydney now, you're doing massive stuff over there with the group that you're coaching. But what made you get into competing in the first place, buddy?
Yeah, so for me, it was more a case of just I had a couple of mates and acquaintances that were like, oh, they've got this new, men's physique category coming. And, this was new at the time. This is back in like 2013. So I thought, I'll give it a go because I was in really good shape then. I've been lifting weights since I was like 15, 16. And the guys were like, man, you got a shape for it. Just do it. So it was like one of those things where I just done it on a whim. It was a local one as well. So it was nearby. I thought I'll just give it a go. And at that point, mate, I didn't really know that much about nutrition. I mean, when I look back, my relationship with food was actually pretty good at that point, and it kind of went downhill. I can talk about that after, restricting and stuff like that. But, so at that point, I was like, right, okay, I'll give it a go. Didn't know what I was doing, mate. I was just like, oh, okay, I'll just eat more egg whites, just, increase my protein. I didn't really know what I was doing, but got on stage and came second out of I think it was about 11 guys in my class. And the guy that won, he went on to, compete at a top level, Mr. Olympia. Romain Lansford.
Oh, yeah.
He was the guy I competed against first. Anyway, long story short, it was just one of those things where I was like, right, let's just give it a go. And then it obviously, because I came second, I qualified them for the British finals, which wasn't expected. And then that was about 5-6 weeks after that show. So I did the British finals, and then I just continued from there. And I kind of, I don't know if I fell in love with it, but I really enjoyed the challenge. And I think at the time, when I look back, if I'm perfectly honest, it's attention as well. Let's just be honest about that, dude. I think a lot of people don't talk about that, but, the ego loves it, right? Yeah, your Instagram's blowing up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just love it, right? And I think if I really wanted to go deep on it, a lot of it is kind of like, people. You see it happen now. A lot of people have deep insecurities, right? Everyone has insecurities on different levels, and they think by doing a competition and obviously getting more attention on Instagram and all that kind of stuff, that yes, a lot of people say they're doing it for a challenge, but a lot of times there's more to it than that. And when I look back, I think a lot of it was like, right, I was a skinny kid growing up, you know what I mean? I never really I wasn't a chump, so to speak, in school, right? I was kind of in the middle. But just to get that attention, I think when I look back, it was like a rush. I'm just being perfectly honest here. It was enjoyable. And then, but no, I did, I've always had a really high work ethic, and I really wanted to kind of grow and make a name for myself. I wanted to get more recognition for my physique and stuff. So it was definitely a good thing to do in terms of building my following and stuff like that. But all in all, you need to have a good why. At the time, I didn't really have a good reason why, and then I could talk about what that led to. Really, there's a dark side to competing. or as you know.
Yeah.
But mate, I mean, it's really developed my character, and I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't for, you know, competing 9 times and pushing myself and getting to the pro level. So
Nice, man. So you say you competed 9 times, and that first show, obviously it was UKBFF, which is now the IFBB Pro League here in Australia. In the UK, it's Two Bros. So what made you then decide to change? Obviously, you've seen somebody quality like Romain, who earned his IFBB Pro card. Like you say, he's competed Mr. Olympia. What made you decide to go for the WBFF? Because it's a different federation. It's got a different field. It's probably got a slightly different look to it, but obviously it's one that you fit in with, because even though you've done really well in IFBB, you earned your pro card in the WBFF, right?
exactly, yeah, that's right. And obviously there's a few factors which come into it. You know, I'm natural as well, right? So although I've competed in non-tested, non-drug tested federations where a lot of guys are on gear, I've never taken gear, you know, and it's not something, you know, not something I would lie about either, because I actually find it a little bit, I don't mind if people take gear and stuff like that. I've got nothing against it, you know, nothing against it at all. I understand it. But, you know, it's when people put on their Instagram and stuff that they're natural when they're not, you know, just don't say anything kind of thing. But for me, you know, like I said, it's not, I've got nothing against people who take gear and stuff. But for me, I never felt really compelled to do it. I was tempted a few times, I'm not going to lie. But obviously competing against guys who weren't natural was an eye-opener. It was a bit humbling when I qualified for the British finals. And that was the second show I did. And I turned up thinking, yes, you know, I was psyched up. I was more shredded than I've ever been. And then I was backstage and I was like, okay, this is what it's about then. The guys, you know, because men's physique originally was kind of created to be more of a healthy kind of, you know, men's health cover model kind of look with a little bit more threads. And then it kind of got out of hand. Right now, I think the men's physique guys, you know, they take more gear than the other bodybuilders. But, you know, once again, I've got nothing against that. But that was an eye-opener for me. And that was, I was a bit, you know, humbled going into that second one. But, yeah, just to answer your question in terms of jumping ships from IFBB to WBFF, I wasn't really getting the placings that I really kind of deserved in a sense with IFBB. And not to say I deserved it, to be honest, you know, it's a subjective sport. And when I look back, you know, I didn't have as much fullness and didn't have as much muscle mass, and my posing could have been better as well. But, you know, so one show, I remember I came 5th, and I was just like, it was just laughable, really, you know, and I'm not trying to be, you know, bitter about it, but, you know, the guys who beat me and stuff, and it was just painful. After a while, I did 5 shows, and I was actually getting worse placings every time, and I was like, literally. And at that point, as well, I didn't really know anywhere near what I know now in terms of nutrition and, you know, behaviors with food and stuff. And I was like restricting so many foods unnecessarily. You know, I was eating a typical kind of bodybuilder diet. And, you know, for about kind of 6-7 weeks at one point, I literally ate nothing other than, you know, chicken, broccoli, sweet potato, maybe salmon for like literally 7 weeks. Nothing at all in between. So then obviously I got to a point then where I did my last IFBB show and I restricted myself and I binged like mad. I was getting these real bad, like kind of binge eating episodes after the shows and stuff like that. Because I wasn't really, like I said, clued up enough. And then I got to the point after the 5th show, I just thought, right, come on, man, you need to, if you're going to continue going, you need to either jump ships or just throw in the towel and do something else, right? So I thought, right, WBFF, someone else recommended that to me. So I gave it a go, never looked back, mate. Amazing experience, the first few shows I'd done. I mean, they really know how to put on a show. You know what I mean? It's not just like jumping on stage. I remember, like, I don't want to talk too much shit about IFBB, but it is what it is, right? You know, I'd done the UK finals and like the lights were still on and stuff. There was like no atmosphere. There was probably about 12 people in the audience, and this is the UK finals, you know. And then WBFF was just mind blowing, the experience. You know, I came placed 2nd in London on my first show, just missed out on the pro card. And then the second time round, then 6 months later, I came 1st then and beat like, you know, 38 other guys, I think, and got the pro card. And yeah, then I competed at the pro level twice then. And mate, I guess just to kind of summarize, I realized that actually it's more up my street, WBFF, you know, because there's more to it than just kind of, they like freaky athletes as well. And I do get, you know, freaky condition when I get on stage, you know, so I get down to like whatever it is on the calipers, like 3%. and they appreciate that if they like you to get shredded and win that condition. But it's also like marketability as well as a big part of the scoring. And like I said, it's just one hell of an experience, compete with the WBFF. So never look back, mate.
Yeah, nice, buddy. Nice. So let's dial into that, because that leads us nicely into the actual topic for today about getting lean. So you done your WBFF show. You beat 38 guys based pretty much on your conditioning, you said, and you get down to like 3% on the calipers. So what does it take to get that lean? Let's talk you through, like, start to finish. What can somebody expect if they're trying to get photo shoot or comp lean and get as peeled as possible?
Yeah, firstly, they can expect they just got to be aware of what they're doing to their body. I think that's number one. Like, if I knowing what I know now, I would probably hesitate putting my body through what I did. But, the bottom line is, anyone who's looking to get down that low body fat, right? You're basically doing irreversible damage to your body. You just got to accept that, right? It doesn't mean that you're not going to bounce back and be healthy afterwards, but, you're doing irreversible damage to your body. Your body doesn't want to be down for a guy to, even below like 7% or whatever. Your body doesn't want to be there. All your brain and body knows is that you're starving it. There's no food coming, and it's going into survival mode. The body doesn't know you're doing a show. We've got a 2 million-year-old brain. All it knows is you're starving it and there's no food coming. So when you do actually, and studies show in terms of hormones and stuff like that, leptin, the hormone which tells you you're full, produced by the fat cells, tells you that you're satiated, tells you that you're full, drastically reduces. In the studies they've done on people who compete and get down that low body fat, it was something like a 58% reduction in leptin levels, getting down for stage condition. Right? That's big. That's a big effect. Yeah. And that's just one of many hormones, And then obviously ghrelin, the hunger hormone, is going to be through the roof. So I think the key thing is just to be aware of what you're going to be doing after. I would say, yes, be prepared for the hardships, be prepared for the grinds, be prepared to really be going against your body's signals. That's the bottom line. But on the plus side, it's great character building. If you are going into it in a smart way, you've got a healthy metabolism, you've really prepped in advance. For example, you've been coached by someone like yourself, so it's a strategy, right? So you've got to a place where you've got a healthy metabolism. You've been lifting weights for, at least 4 or 5 years, I would say, So you've built a significant amount of lean muscle mass, which is going to keep your metabolism elevated, but also it's going to make you worthy of getting on stage, right? That's the bottom line. You've got to put the hours in there. But in terms of the aftermath of doing it, I really, if there's one thing I could go back and change, well, I wouldn't change it, but there's one thing I wish I knew, it was having an action plan after you've got down there. Because the bottom line is, people, they want to compete, they want to get on stage, or they want to get shredded for a photo shoot, and they haven't really planned much afterwards. Because let me tell you, what I really learned last time, Oren, when I competed last year, I've done the WBFF pro show in the Gold Coast, I realized actually reverse dieting is almost as hard, if not harder, than actually getting in shape for the show. Because like I said, you've starved your body, so you get off stage, and then all the signals, your brain's just sending a signal to your body to say, feed me. So every time you eat, and now you haven't got to get on the stage. You're not going to be critiqued. You're not going to be going for whatever you're going for. So you don't have that kind of, motivation, if you like, to keep it within reason when you reverse diet and afterwards. Because again, studies have shown that if you just binge after shows, and I've noticed this myself as well. It's funny because I was in insane shape for my last show. But what I did notice is, although I shredded right down, my body fat was probably about 0.5% higher, which doesn't sound like much, but when you're at the pro level, that adds up. My condition was there. It wasn't an issue. But what happens is, if you binge and stuff like that, and you don't have a strategy in place for reverse dieting, studies have now shown that you can actually gain fat cells, which are permanent. So that actually happened to me, only on a small level, but that's what happens. The body's smart like that. So you starve it, and then if you don't slowly build your calories back up and have a strategy in place after you've competed, your body's going to hold on to those, could potentially hold on to permanent fat cells. Not to mention, psychologically, you feel like absolute crap when you binge after a show, because the water retention is insane, especially if you're not continuing with the habits you were doing leading up to that event, such as moving plenty, you know, training, not at the same intensity. But a lot of people, they'll like book a holiday afterwards. I've done this before. Get in shape for a show. The worst thing you can do is book a holiday afterwards, not have a strategy in place, eat everything, all-inclusive holiday. You'll gain, you know, I've known guys to gain, like one guy gained 20, 25 kilos in like a week on holiday. Like,
wow,
insane. I think it was 10 days. One guy I used to compete with. And mate, that's another thing as well. I don't want to be all doom and gloom, right? Because there's some great things that come out of it. But, you know, I did witness more kind of eating disorders in the bodybuilding world, you know, amongst my peers, if you like, at the time, than I did in the hundreds of clients that I've coached over the years. You know what I mean? So you need to be smart about it. You know, you need to have a good relationship with food, but you can expect to be pushed to the limit for sure.
Yeah, and then in terms of pushing to that limit, so how would your average week look? So say start to finish, so how long do you prep for? Like 12, 16, 20 weeks?
Yeah, so the last show was about 16 weeks, but I was cutting down for about 10 weeks. I don't think it's necessary to do any longer than 10 to 12 weeks for a cut if you do it properly, you know.
Yeah, so let's say like those sort of let's say in the last 6 weeks, right? Whenever you're starting to get really lean and, you know, you're starting to see those changes that dial in like pretty much daily and you start to notice new things. What does your week look like in terms of training then? Like how often are you training? How hard are you training? How much cardio is in?
Yep. So zero cardio. And all the people I've prepped in the past, I've had them doing zero cardio. Cardio is only something I'll get them to do if they're towards the end, they're not quite there and they need to ramp it up. I'll get them to do cardio, use it as a tool. I just focus, you know, if you want to call, you know, walking is cardio, right? Just getting steps up. That's the only cardio I'll do, is super low intensity. But in terms of my, I'll talk a bit more about that, but in terms of my weight training regime, it is, you know, 6 to 7 days per week, basically. So it was actually, you know, 6 days in the gym. And then on the 7th day, then I'll just be practicing posing. I do some pump ups with a band. And that's pretty much it. But in terms of my actual training, the type of training I do, it's almost a little bit kind of unconventional, although it's becoming more popular now. People are catching on to the science, but I've been tuned into this type of training for a while, and it's training the full body. So hitting every single body part three times in a week. So, for example, it'll be 3 different workouts. It's always, you know, phased. So I'll be doing, say, 3 or 4 weeks of strength training. 3 or 4 weeks will be hypertrophy. And then, you know, 3 or 4 weeks will be, you know, kind of strength endurance. Now, studies show that actually you can split it up into a week. So you could do like, you know, heavy weights one day, on a Monday, for example, hypertrophy, 8 to 12 rep range on a Wednesday, and then high reps, high volume on a Friday. And you get pretty much the same results. But what I find is if you split it into like 3 or 4 week phases where you're just focusing on one stimulus, you can really gauge your progress a lot better. And I find just generally I respond better that way. So yeah, 3 full body sessions a week, and the days in between. So like, for example, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, full body. They're my main foundational workouts. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, for example, I will be hitting my lagging body parts. But on those days where I'm hitting my lagging body parts, I'm not going all out with the intensity. So I'm doing, say, 70% of my usual intensity. And I'll be doing legs. So for me, my legs were actually one of my strongest points on stage last time. So I went so hard on them. But I would be doing legs, you know, at least 2 times on top of those full body sessions. So that's like legs 5 times in a week, but that's not hammering my legs. It's not doing a great amount of volume every session, but the total volume over the space of a week is pretty high. But, people mistake the kind of the recovery and adaptation thing. People kind of get it wrong. They think, you know, if I hammer my body part and I'm aching, then I've done a good job. But the reality is, if you're aching for longer than a day or 2, you've done too much, and your body's kind of, you've normally broken down soft tissue and all the rest of it as well as muscles. So yeah, that's how my regime looked, if that makes sense, mate.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And, you know, each to their own. Like some people like to do a bro split where you do one muscle group and hammer it. Some people like to do push-pull legs. Obviously, full body works for you with those little top-ups, like you said, on the leg and body parts. What about calories? So when you're pre-comp versus when you get down to those sort of let's say the last 4 weeks, like what's the difference in calories? Or let's go Let's go 2 weeks out, right? Let's make it more extreme. So from that 12-week mark, when you start to diet to 2 weeks out, what can you expect to happen with your calories in that time frame?
It's funny you say that, because I remember last prep, I remember 2 weeks out, I was kind of got ahead of myself, and I thought, this has been super smooth, this prep. And I remember just 2 weeks out, it just hit me, and like every hour was like a day. Seriously.
Yeah.
You know, when it gets to that point. But yeah, so in terms of my calories, I was just tapering them down very slowly. And I was in a position where, like, because I built my, I was in a really healthy state before I actually cut down, and my metabolism was roaring because my off season was so good and I built a lot of muscle. I started, I basically, the lowest I went on calories was like, 2,800. That was the lowest I went. And that was just on the last week, 2,800. But that's not bad at all. I was doing 15,000 steps a day. But yeah, the last 2 weeks, my calories, like I said, they went down to about 2,009, 2 weeks out. And the last week then it went as low as maybe 2,700 on some days. But just generally, yeah, it wasn't too bad, mate, really, in terms of the calorie consumption. But one thing I did tune into last time is like, just people try factoring in, protein bars and processed foods into their prep. And I would just not recommend that at all, man, because those foods, they just make you want to eat more. You know what I mean? So I was just having 3 meals a day, 3 meals a day, plenty of meats, plenty of white rice, plenty of veggies, plenty of sweet potato, keeping it simple, loads of salt on each meal, drinking 6 liters of water a day, and kept it pretty much the same, really. So cutting out dark chocolate, mate, that was, I just cut that out probably about 3 weeks out. Just cut out only because of the behaviors. It's not so much just it is the calories as well, and obviously in the macros. It's more just the behaviors it promotes. You know what I mean? Like when you're starved, your body just wants more of it. So
yeah, that's something. I mean, I've still got dark chocolate in my like dessert bowl every night, which is Greek yogurt, whey protein, berries, almond butter on training days, and honey on non-training days, just to get a last bit of carbs in. But I've got dark chocolate, and like one day I tweaked my macros around a bit, so I could only have one square. So there's one square in the chocolate, like in the wrapper still, and normally, you just break off the 2 squares of the lint. And I just said to my missus, she came in from work one night and I says, "Here, do you want a bit of chocolate?" And she's like, "Why?" I was like, "Because like that one bit's in there. And if that one bit is still sitting there tonight, when I go to put that into my dessert, there's going to be 3 instead of 2. And that's, exactly. It might only be an extra 100 calories or something like that, but it's going in." Because especially when you get towards the latter stages of a prep, it's that decision fatigue, and especially when it's like your last thing at night, potentially. A lot of people eat dark chocolate before bed because of like numerous good reasons. But like you've made so many, there's been so many, like how many decisions your brains make per second, and you've thought of food so many times during the day, and at that stage of night, like it's just like, nah, I'm done. Like extra berries or like extra chocolate can easily just go in, and you're like, you know what, fuck it. Like, so exactly. I literally said to her, like, it's one of those foods that it was literally an extra score was there, and I was like, nah, that's going in my food if I eat it. So you got to have it now. You're in from work.
100%.
Yeah, but I think the key thing to consider here is that you're genetically blessed where you can eat higher calories and still get pretty lean. Like 2.9 2 weeks out is still high. Sorry. Even me right now, man, I'm eating 2.3 on a training day and 2,000 on a non-training day, and that's still pretty high, and it's working. But the thing is, you will still be struggling if your body fat goes below a certain point, right? Because your body will fight back. So like you say, where every hour felt like a day, basically that's because your body fat's so low. It doesn't matter whether you're eating 5,000 calories or 2,000. If your body fat's that low, just moving around and functioning is going to be hard. And that's all relative. If you normally eat 4,000 or 5,000 in your off season and you can get down to 2.9, or you start at 3.6 and you've got to go to 2.9, doesn't really matter. But once you hit that certain level of body fat, everything just becomes a struggle.
100%, mate. 100%. You get down into that red zone, don't you? And it makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint, right? Your body's trying to reduce your energy expenditure. So all these signals are telling you to stop moving, to stop training. So that's what I mean. You're going against all the signals, right? So something you need to be aware of. Your body doesn't want to be there. So every day when you get towards the end of prep, you're fighting against what your brain's telling you. Your brain's in panic mode. Your your stress level through the roof. Like, I'm not selling them much here, am I, bro? But the bottom line is, man, it's you know, if you do it in a smart way, you've got a good coach and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like someone like yourself or whatever, someone who knows what they're doing, not just like a, you know, like a Mickey Mouse coach who's just going to give you a cookie cutter. It doesn't work like that. The psychological factor to getting down that low, you know, it needs to be monitored. It needs to be structured in terms of, you know, the calories and you know, you don't want to be overdoing. You don't want to be in too big a deficit. You see people doing it time and time again, where they're in like a massive deficit, you know, because they're doing loads of cardio and cutting down their calories at the same time. And then, you know, your body's going to be screaming at you, just making things even more tougher, you know? So it needs to be, it needs to be controlled.
100%, mate. And like one thing, this actually came up with a client today. He was like, oh, listen, I've been talking to this guy today and, you know, he competed at a decent level. He got pretty lean. He dieted by doing this 5 days super low with 2 days super high food. And I was like, okay, cool. What's working for you is working for you right now. So let's not change anything. But the one thing that doesn't, the guy, my client was thinking, oh, could that get me faster results? But here's the thing. To get the 2 days super high, you've got to do 5 days super low. And whenever you've got to train on those days, you've got to manage your energy, right? And if you're performing at a certain level and you're already fatigued, it's more about these last 4 to 6 weeks about like fatigue management and not putting additional stress on the body. Like you want to be slowly removing stressors, like taking cardio out, being ready 2 weeks out so you can trial a carb up, all these little things. And if you have to go super low, like for 5 days and you still got to train on those days, it's going to be fucking hard, right? So even though the 2 days at the end where you get to go super high and balance everything out and you feel fucking great by Monday, then Monday to Friday, you're going to be struggling again, right?
100%, mate.
And that's not to say that that method doesn't work. It fucking works, but you've got to take into account that individual's relationship with food, that individual's mindset around everything. Could they handle going 5 days low to get those 2 days high? Is the plan currently working? And there's so many different variables and there's so many different ways to skin a cat in this game. Like you said, you don't have to do cardio. Like you just do a set number of steps, 15,000. For me, it's going to be 30 minutes of cardio every day plus a 10,000 step thing, right? Rather than having to go out. Because mate, being online coach, we're pretty much desk bound for a lot of the day, right? So it's loads of different factors that come into it. But what about when people are thinking about getting lean and starting a prep, like what factors should people consider? Like stresses, finances, training history, diet history, like relationship with food. What do people need to really consider before they decide, right, am I ready to go in for a comp prep or a photo shoot prep or just to get leaner than I've ever got before?
Well, the bottom line is really, right, what are you willing to sacrifice, right? Because if you want to get in stage condition, or even if you want to get shredded, period, right, then what are you willing to sacrifice? Because you can bet that you're going to have to sacrifice relationships one way or another, okay? A social life is going to have to go down the pan if you want to get that lean, especially, you know, 4 weeks out. And if you're willing to sacrifice that, that's all good. Are you willing to sacrifice, you know, whether it's, you know, what I found is with business on my last show, you know, I was trying to do my online thing, podcast, all that kind of stuff. And I already knew are you willing to, you know, slow down momentum with business and basically let that take a massive hit for 4 to 6 weeks? Because if you do something like this, if you're anything like myself or you, right, you want to do it properly. Let's face it, I'm very competitive in relation to getting on stage. You know, I'm doing it to win. I'm not doing it just to jump on stage. I'm doing it to win. So I want to bring my best. I want to give everything. So it comes at a price, right? So business, relationships, you know, your health. Are you willing to take a hit on your health? Because the bottom line is, like I said, you know, it is going to be like a big hit on your body. It's not healthy. It's never, you can do it like the way I've done it. You could say is the healthier way, right? You know, I haven't taken loads of gear. I had a good relationship with food on the recent shows, not on the first shows I did. So I done it in maybe a healthier way than some people, but it's never healthy. So you've always just got to bear that in mind. But also it's just weighing up, you know, I'm going to be getting super, super lean now, super lean. And, you know, why am I doing it, to your point earlier? So I think that's a big one. It's like, And relationship with food, I think that is one of the most important things, really. I've actually turned people away. Who've come to me for prep a couple of times. And because I've monitored what they were doing and the way they ate and, their metabolic rate and stuff like that, like I said, behaviors with food, even the way they train and stuff like that, and where they were at with, in terms of what kind of training they've been doing. And I was just like, nah, I can't take you on, because you're going to be worse off afterwards. And, it takes a lot to do that, but that's the bottom line. You need to be automatically kind of at a point where you're subconsciously eating, a decent amount of whole foods. You need to be at that point where naturally and subconsciously you're kind of intuitively eating, decent amount of vegetables, decent amount of lean proteins and stuff, getting a decent amount of nutrients in, healthy fats, avocado, nuts, olive oil, all those kind of things need to kind of be a staple part of your diet before you go into these things. Because, if you're not getting enough nourishment in your body and you're eating predominantly processed foods, then good luck when you do a prep for a comp, because processed foods are engineered to make you overeat. And if you do get over the line and you get on stage and you deliver, firstly, if you're eating a lot of processed foods, it's going to be miserable, absolutely miserable prep. And then secondly, you're going to rebound like mad after your comp, because you haven't built in those, you haven't cemented in those habits when it comes to eating intuitively, eating foods which serve your body and don't just taste good. And let's face it, I love to eat food which tastes good, but most people value food purely for how it tastes. So if that's where you're at before doing a prep, then it's not a good place to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. So I think to summarize that up, you need to be in a good relationship with food. You need to have your calories in a good place. Like a girl coming to prep who's on 1,500 calories has no chance, because
exactly,
to get enough fat off, you're probably going to have to go below 1,000 calories. And that's whenever it's going to really fucking struggle.
exactly.
You need to financially be able to afford it. You need to know your why, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Like for me, my why is that I always feel like for this shoot is that I haven't really brought my best before. Like I've been close. I'm happy with what I've done before on photo shoots, and never really happy with how I've done in shows, to be fair. But I know there's more gas in the tank, and I know that I can do better. So that was my motivation this time. I was like, let's just do it. Let's get some new pictures. Let's be that beacon of light, that leading from the front for clients who show them, right, this is what it takes. Like O's doing this alongside us. And I just have fun with clients along the way. So I think you need to know your why. You need to make sure you're emotionally in a good place for it, low stress. You need to connect with a coach to make sure you're guided in and doing everything right. And you need to be in a good relationship with food, to sum it up. And in terms of
I wanted to bring up real quickly as well, just to mention that it's really important to know where you're at in terms of the stress you have. Like, what life stresses you had before you decide to do a prep? You know what I mean? Have you got a super stressful job which is grinding you down? Are you not getting enough sleep? Are you struggling with your sleep and stuff like that? Is that something that you struggle with? Do you struggle with anxiety and depression? Because you don't want to be going into a show in that state. And it's like the bathtub analogy, right? Which we picked up recently off, the bathtub analogy. It's a good analogy because you've got a bathtub, you've got lots of different taps with water flowing from each. The taps are turned on. There's water flowing into the bath. Each one of those taps is a different stressor in your life, right? Yeah. So, it could be family stress, work stress, training is an added stress on the body, poor sleep, all these things. If they're all coming in and all the taps are on, the bath's going to overflow and spill over, right? So if you're in a position where you've got, all this stress coming in, even whether or not you're doing a show, it doesn't matter really. That is not a good place to be when it comes to, getting in shape, period, really, right?
Yeah. That's massive. I've literally just, if anyone sees me scribbling, I'm literally writing down the time that you're talking about things so I can clip them up and put all these good points together, right? I think stress is a massive thing, mate. And if you're stressed going into it, whether it's, your relationship stress or your job stress is you're just a stress head. Prep is stressful enough. You will have low energy. You will get to that like lean stage where you're going to struggle, and I think it's a case of finding out exactly why you're doing this, why now, can you afford to do it now? Like mentally, physically, emotionally, relationships wise, can you afford to have your business or your relationships potentially take a slight hit? I'll be the first to admit that, I'm not doing stuff with my wife and daughter that I probably should be doing, and I will be doing plenty of after this, but short term, like I can't enjoy food, drinks. I can't, I can't do things that I would like to do with them as much as I would want to.
I don't mean to make you feel like bad or nothing like that, but this is something I remember last time. Like, you don't get that time back. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just something you accept. Yes, you can make up for it, but I remember last time around thinking, shit, all this time that I haven't been in touch with people, I've been completely selfish. It's the most selfish sport on the planet. You don't get that time back. So that's something people should really take away from this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Basically,
it's going to take a lot out of you. So it's a case of there's a million different ways to skin the cat. And we kind of didn't go down that route as much because I guess there is loads of different ways to do things in terms of food, cardio, steps, weights. Like, as long as you find a coach you trust and you stick to the plan, it's going to happen. But the way we kind of went down is what it takes mentally more than anything to get lean. And hopefully people have got a lot out of this, mate. And like, there's tons of nuggets in here. But mate, what I wanted to do is, I'll be tagging you when this comes out anyway. But if people want to reach out and have a conversation with you about your experience, maybe talk about competing in the WBFF and your experience with that, or they want to reach out to you for coaching, what's your Instagram handle and how do people get in touch?
Yeah, best way to contact me is just through Instagram at Martin Silva Fitness, and just drop me a direct message on there. Also, you might as well go and check out my podcast as well, Optimize Your Body. There's some good content on there. I think did you have Alicia Gowans on your show?
Yeah.
I got an episode with her, and also a few physique guys on there. So yeah, but just DM me on Instagram is the best. Yeah,
killer, mate, killer. Well, thanks for your time, buddy. This will be up in about 2 weeks' time. And I'm really excited to get this out there and share some nuggets with people. And guys, please go follow Martin. He's an awesome coach. I like to call him the Welsh Wonder. He's living a good life over there in Sydney, and he is an awesome coach. So please get in touch with him if you do have any questions, mate. But mate, thank you for your time. It's been awesome. And guys, if you did enjoy this, please screenshot this episode. Please share it on your social media, and let's get the word out there about what people need to consider before they think about getting lean. Thanks, Martin.
Cheers, brother.
Thanks for listening to The O Show with your host, Oren McCory. If you liked this episode, then please subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening and share this on your social media. We'll see you on the next episode for more no-nonsense advice to help you supercharge your efforts in the gym, in the kitchen, and most importantly, in your head. See you then.